On one hand, the material is very pure and very economic, what he's using, but on the other hand, it's totally rich. It really brings you in a relationship to space where you're normally in, but you see it totally different. In a way, all the works are sculptures which are defined in their measurements, which are defined in their proportions normally, but on the other hand, they relate to the space. They relate to the heightness of the ceiling, and sometimes they relate to the wall and the proportion. The most important thing is where you place the works. It will change the space and the work with it, and they really get something like a unit, and that is so important. He precisely describes how you have to install the work and the measurements between each string. It's also named how you should drill, everything like this, but also what you should do when you are in the place and you place the work. And he really says that he himself takes a lot of time to look at the space and then that he places the work. And that he really says somebody, an interpreter of his work, should also do this, and he should also take himself a lot of freedom in the range, of course, of the work, to place the work and maybe also to change little things like proportions, but also to take care of the preciseness of all what he has said to it. There's a very, very early piece in the exhibition, which is a small cube. He was still a student in Yale, and it's his first sculpture he ever made with string. And then the metal sculptures, which he had only done in the late 60s. Then he started working with elastic cord, and that he stopped in 1972, and he went over to acrylic yarn. And that is then really his main material he used since then. The reliefs he started in 1995, where you have the lines and they are carved. It's taking away the line, not putting the line or setting the line, it's putting away the line. And the incredible thing about it, it's also they take so much space. When you look at them, you really ask yourself where they end. Do they end at the end of the edge of the piece itself? Or do they end at the edge of the room? Or do they end somewhere else in the space? This yarn which is used, this acrylic yarn, is a material you can nearly buy everywhere. It's a very, very simple material. And it changes so much within the sculpture, because I think you don't think anymore about the material when you look at it. It's getting a line, it's getting a precise form. The line is one of the main things in art. Everybody is drawing, all artists were about what is a line. And there is, for example, in the text of Paul Klee, he's also writing about the line. And that the line is dynamic, or it's different kind of emotions coming to you when you see the line. If you have a line like this, it's very nervous, or you have a quiet line, you have a dynamic line. And everybody, especially when you think of Klee or Kandinsky, or in all this classical modern art, they were thinking about the line. Also Rodchenko has written a book on the line. So I think it's a lot about this basics of art, what you have here, and what Sandback is able to do, he's putting the line into space. What he's doing with the trapezoid, I think it's very interesting, because you have this quietness of the plane within the trapezoid, which is also a condensed space. But then you have also the dynamic of the line, because of coming out of the wall just a little bit. So for Paul Klee, this was like a kind of utopian to have a line in the space. There exist a lot of drawings, and I think you still cannot, we don't know yet how many, but it's a real big part of his work, and I think the drawings are very important because you can see how he approached to space, how he thought on space, how he reduced the space to a minimum so that he could also find, in a way, his ideas. I think this kind, you really can see the way of thinking and approaching, and I think that's very important. And here you have now a selection of drawings where he made drawings for installations. And it's starting with 1968, where he had an exhibition in Munich in the Heiner Friedrich Gallery. And there you see how he placed his early sculptures. And some of them are made before, some of them are made after an exhibition, some are made just for its own, that they are drawings, but others are like notes or thinking about it afterwards, like a reflection, but they are always a drawing. One thing about the acrylic yarn, which is also very important, is the color. He chooses a color, and when you look at this work, you have red, yellow, blue, black, and I mean these are the ground colors which are used in art always. When you look at Mondrian, you have red, yellow, blue. When you look to Rubens, you find these colors. So it's a lot about color, and there are works where the strings are just the color which he bought, but there are other works which are painted, and he self calls this also broken paintings. It's not just about sculpture and space, it's also about color and paint. Also he has spoken a lot on music. It's about rhythm and how works are placed together. It's also the colors have a rhythm together, and the picture of music, I think it's very important. And also if you look at the work, sometimes it starts that you think on something of which is equivalent to parts of music. Pedestrian space is a term which he created, and I think it was for him that the work is really just placed right there, like a casual thing, like an everyday thing. It was really to bring down the work from a pedestal, from a plinth, which they have always been on. And this pedestrian space means also that the viewer, it's in a way part of the work. Yeah, you are walking through it, or you are standing in front of it, and it's a relation also to your own body. And I think this is a pedestrian space, and this is also what in this time happens, that the artists have really thrown away the pedestal. But not just to throw away the pedestal, to get in another relationship to the viewer. And I think that's very important. And all the works, when you're in front of it, I think it has really such a strong relation to your own body. It speaks to you in a way, yeah? That's very important.